Okay, why am I doing this video? Because of the importance that it has to do particularly with children, actually adult children, because it's directly tied to miasma, and that causes blockages in cellular records. And that has to do with a word I've used in the past when I talked about Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, so most folks that have known, particularly have watched some of my videos. I've shared a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to a lot of alcoholics meetings. I've been to a lot of what do they call them? Al-Anon meetings, Narcan meetings, addiction behavior. So this is what I know: behavioral patterns as it relates to creative patterns, as it relates to creative intelligence patterns, and how behavioral algorithms. So this was stuff that I learned as a result of what I deliberately wrote into my timeline to experience from which to learn and leave it as a record for students. Because I am a spiritual teacher. I am a spiritual warrior. I'm a heart warrior, a rainbow warrior. That's me. Okay? So what I do is I share my experiences, but what I've learned how to have successful on a spiritual battlefield for all the nuts and marbles. And that is always going to be a measure of the purity of your heart, which is the purity of your fire, which is how much is it rage. All you got to do is look up at a star. You want to be a star? A real star? That kind of stuff. Being the first star. So imagine being the first star. Imagine being with the first star, which is the first teacher. Now you're always on fire. So there is a page in the 3rd edition of the Big Book. For those that want to look at them, just go take a look at it. And while I can't guarantee what your reaction is going to be, then that's actually the point of this video. You know what chemical electrodynamically linked chemical reaction states are, linked to all these other libraries, circulation libraries, because we're all connected. Running circulation libraries, cellular recordings, right? And that had to do with a word. Put this one in big bold letters on a billboard going down Interstate 5 in Los Angeles. Expectations. Do you expect others to perform for you? Like on stage in entertainment? The Roman Arena? Right? Get your peanuts, get your popcorn here, right? What I do is I teach through experience. That's how we learn. Right? So what I share with you is by virtue of what I learned. So we're learning through each other. So the faster we're learning through each other to create a universe that is in love with itself, it will accelerate and it will become that, because that's what I am. So expectations in this, and this is not a coincidence, by the way, that I'm doing this video. You see all that banging with something like a hammer out there? Right? What are they doing? Shooting off fireworks again? This is not a coincidence that they were directed to do that. That's called a behavioral sound and light pattern. That's a noisemaker. Okay, so it's not a coincidence that the Metatronic activated that behavior. So it has everything to do with behavior patterns, because that's what sound and light burn patterns are, which is how we behave by virtue of how we communicate to other cells. That's right. And so when you get into the expectation side of this, that the whole online environment is based on that. To tap into that inner child of approval seeking. Okay. Well, you don't approve of my message? How come you didn't give me a heart? Right? You're supposed to give me a heart. Wait a second. I'm not required to do anything. Am I? As a matter of fact, am I required to respond to you? You see, when I was a kid growing up, my mother always taught me about what it was like to be polite. When I walked down the street, there was sort of a standard, right? And this is the way it used to be. When you walk down the street, you see all those other people, right? Including dogs, cats, and everything else. Hey, how you doing? Right? So if you didn't look at the person or acknowledge who they are, it's like, they are there, you know. Hey, how you doing? So it was always standard to smile with your eyes wide open, like we used to say, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because that is a signature of a live one. Hey, there's a live one. That's not a robot. That's not a cyborg. An NPC, which is a non-player character, which means they're not in this. They are, to me, what we call movie props. You know what movie props are, right? They're just part of the landscape. Okay. And so these aren't the real players in a video Star Wars game. Okay? You don't see them. They hide. And for good reason. They're dark. Okay? Black as the ace of spades, as they say. And you know why that is? They're afraid to admit what it is that they are, but they don't want you to know. So they have to hide behind masks, and they hide behind technology so that you can't see who they are. You know why that is? It has everything to do with the director of the play. If you go into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, third edition, somewhere around about the 400 section, you're going to talk about the director of the play. You know, the script that you're writing, the timeline that you're writing. How do you know you're the author of that timeline? And it's not somebody else that wrote your script for you. How do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know how that works? Do you know why that's important? Right? How do I know that you are who you say you really are? Somebody else could have written the script for you. Right? Who are you really? I did a couple videos on identity. Right? So when I would meet a couple of girls, I would simply tell them, listen, what you see is what you get. I am the real McCoy. I'm as real as it fucking gets. I have a raging blast furnace in me, okay, which means I'm always on fire. How much fire you got in you, girl? Because if you run with the same kind of fire that I got, then I know that you, like a goddess, and me, we're going to go create a universe together. Because you got enough fire in you, and I got enough fire in me that you and I never want to be separated from each other, which means I want to be every fucking thing you are. And you want to be everything that I am, and that's how you get mated. Now you're a raging whirlpool of plasma. Wow. Who mated you? God. The first one. Because the one knows you want to serve forever. Because of how hot you burn and how hot you're willing to burn in which to do that. Which means now that that door is shut, which is door one, they can't unmake you to become something that you're not anymore. Now you know who you really are. You are what love is. In living spirit. So if you are what love is, with a pure heart, as a child of light, everyone knows who you are. There is no mistake in your identity. And that's because we tell it exactly like it is. With no fluff. As my dad would say, we're not going to put any fluff on this. No, we're not. Which means we live in the absolute truth, which is absolute pure eternal love. Now you know who we are. But in the online community, that can be tricky. And it's just like I mentioned to a friend of mine the other day what happened when I was down there at the, where was that, Mama? Going to the courthouse. You know, just more harassment. You know, I'm just driving along, minding my own business, wanted to go down to the beach, yeah. And there was a tail light at night that was out, so they stopped me for that, right? And so I don't, you know, we're the ones who issued the permits. So they're the ones that are telling us that I got to get a permit in order for me to travel throughout the cosmos. Who are you? Right? So, they wear a gun and the bubblegum machine and all that. They're on a movie set. All they are is doing a job. Okay? And so, since they're programmed to do that, then what else did you expect them to do? This is when we get into cognitive science, right? Behavioral patterns. Did you expect them to act any different than the way that you already know that they do? Because all you have to do is observe them. So when you're in observer mode and you're just kicking back and you're in a state of eternal peace, you can just watch the whole movie play before you and see how it's all laid out. Who put this movie together? It's got a full cast of characters, and characters are character maps, which are basically computer codes or processing codes to run a program. So that means you got to know something about programming, and it means you got to know something about how to unprogram or deprogram or get rid of that program, run a different program. Right? I don't want to experience this. Then go experience something different. How creative are you? That's actually where the answer lies. That's what love is. So I don't place any expectations on anybody else. You do what you do, I do what I do. And this is very important in relationships, particularly when it deals with sex and reproductive stuff and software development and building universes, networks, right? See, with me, when I was a girl, I've been a girl, okay? I'm a girl and a boy joined. That's why when I was a child growing up, it's like, you're a nature boy? Well, I'm a nature girl and a nature boy joined as one. So it means I can be a girl in nature and I can be a boy in nature and I'm still going to be in love with nature, which means I'm one. That's a monopole. I just run a pure love vibration. I can be in anything and experience what love is. Because that's the engine that keeps it running. I'm the engine that keeps it running. That's a what? That means I'm always with the one. That's choosing to serve forever. So I serve forever. That's what it means. Every time I used to write on a love letter when I was in junior high school, I love you forever and always. And this was important of what I learned. Why would she ask me a question like that? Because the way that it worked back then, so this is all the programming, okay? Setting up a Truman Show, right? And setting numbers on reproductive speed. They're going to breed like rabbits, and so they know how to program so that doesn't happen. That's all the programming set up so that the menstrual period happens exactly when it does, and it's all set to a certain schedule. This all has to do with how the landscape is going to change over time-space vectors between now and the next moment that a magnet is completing a circuit. Right? So the Truman Show. Remember the movie The Truman Show? Same stuff. And so I have a little bit of fun with this, but it has everything to do with expectations. If I'm the writer of my own script, and you're the writer of your own script, then you are writing into your cellular memory what it is that you're learning by virtue of what you're experiencing as you're doing it. So you're learning more about yourself and the relationship